One of the biggest fears that any football fan has is that the ownership of their club isn't necessarily going to invest a significant amount of money without money coming in from the outside. There are very, very few football clubs that actually function efficiently. There are very few clubs that have a set amount of revenue and then they will take less than that number and put it into their costs. So even though, for example, the squad cost of Leeds United is less than 100%, there's still various administrative things that we need to pay for, and that means that very few football clubs actually make a profit. Thankfully, Jed York has done an interview, and it turns out that there's going to be a little bit more investment in Leeds United over the coming years. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about the various bits of money that are going to be coming into Leeds United, what Jed York mentioned in this interview, and ultimately how that sum of somehow over £600 million is going to make a fundamental difference to the club for an extended period of time. And to open, Jed York sort of did the standard sort of stuff where he sort of talks up the club, which is what you do if you're the owner of the club, to be completely clear. If you didn't, you'd be borderline insane. And he very specifically said that Leeds is one of the biggest brands in all of sports, and he wants Leeds to get back to basically where we belong, which is sort of what you want to hear as a fan. Like, it's not diving into the investment stuff as a whole just yet, but it's significantly better than when some owners go, yeah, it's a really interesting asset and I'd really like to see what we can do with it over the next couple of years. It's a sort of long-termist perspective that really makes a pretty significant difference to the way that we perceive this. It's not a case of, well, we're here now, we'll be gone in like 15 minutes, so whatever money we can make, brilliant, and then we'll work it out from there. No, it's a very specific sort of, we want to have a long-term impact on this legacy thing rather than just a short-termist view. And he specifically also mentions around the stadium expansion discussions of keeping the essence of Elland Road while still expanding to that 53,000 seats, which there's also discussion of the sort of season ticket thing again. But the idea that there's going to be vastly more tickets available is, again, something that the club kind of needs. It'll boost the club to the seventh biggest football stadium in the country, which is incredible, to be completely honest with you. And it sort of keeps us up with the clubs that we're trying to keep up with, and it makes sure that in the long term, remaining in the Premier League is vastly, vastly easier. And this is where the first big chunk of that investment comes in, because there's a couple of various areas that it comes from. But the first of those is with the stadium, because when people are talking about, well, the 49ers, I don't think that they're spending enough kind of thing, a lot of people don't account for the stuff like the stadium expansion, which will cost, according to some reports, something like 600 million quid. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but those are the rough sort of estimates of what it would be to expand Elland Road from that 37,000 seats to the 53,000 because of tearing down the West Stand after building over the top of it and then making sure that everything is safe while still using it week in, week out. The whole thing is a bonkers project, but it's a necessary project, especially when you pair that with the next thing that Jed York said, that was the goal is always to win, which is massive, to be completely honest with you. And this is where a sort of link between the 49ers and Leeds comes in, because the 49ers had a reasonable season, made it to the playoffs, which is brilliant, fantastic, very happy to see it. Weren't able to make it properly deep into the playoffs because they had a little bit of an injury crisis, because that's just going to happen sometimes. It's American football. Your entire job is run into people as fast as you can. Obviously, from time to time, you're going to get hurt. But it's getting to the playoffs in the first place that sort of makes the difference there. And it's the investment in key players such as Brock Purdy, who is their quarterback. They put him on a new contract towards the start of the year. And it sort of paid dividends because their attacking side of the game worked brilliantly when they signed Christian McCaffrey a while back. Another pretty big one that is a sign that the 49ers, when they're invested in victory, are happy to throw money at something. And that's something that I think we saw last summer when we spent over £100 million. Admittedly, we had to stay within PSR stuff. And it's something that we'll see going forwards again, because we've heard from the investor decks that it's going to be something like 120 million quid next summer. So that suits the idea that the goal is always to win and there are always the resources there to win, which comes to his next quote, where he alludes that summer investment will absolutely push the club forward, when he said there's always investment for Leeds and there will definitely be more. To me, this implies that there is an understanding, unlike the way that Radrizzani did it, where he was like, well, we invested the first year. Second year, you only need Junior Firpo and Dan James, right? Which, the reality of the situation, no, we needed vastly more than that, and Bielsa was very, very clear about that at that point. And I think that's a lesson that the 49ers have learned from what went wrong with Radrizzani, and they're committing to spending quite a significant sum of money to make sure that we get where we need to be going forwards. That statement of there's always investment for Leeds United is really reassuring to hear, because it's sort of an on-the-record statement of, yes, there will be money there. It's not Daniel Farker in a press conference going, ooh, I'd really like a winger. It's the owner of the club saying, yeah, there's always going to be finance there if it's needed, which is absolutely perfect, genuinely fantastic. And that pushes investment over the next 2 years or something to £720 million. And not a ton of that will be made through transfers out, because when it comes to players that we're likely to lose, you've got the keepers, but we know that the keepers aren't necessarily going to earn that much money because 3 of them have contracts expiring, which is a bit of a shame. It doesn't really help us, but it's something. You got Peru, who's not going to earn a ton, maybe a big ticket item, maybe a Nonto, maybe a Strauch, but again, that's not going to make anywhere near the reported £120 million transfer fund that we'll have, which shows the size of that investment is going to be absolutely vast. And something that we need to remember that I don't think enough people do is that the 49ers will only benefit financially when we do. They put 350 million quid into buying the club, which is a lot of money. We know this. They're putting 600 into the stadium. They've put a lot of money into the transfers already. And not... That was a fun hiccup. Not once off the top of my head have the club actually operationally made a profit. The only way that they make any money here is selling the club for more value than they've put into it. And the only way that club increases in value is by performing well on the pitch. And the only way that it performs well on the pitch is if it's invested in. And that cycle continues, and it means that there's basically a guarantee that if the 49ers want to profit from their investment, the only way on earth that that happens is if we succeed and if they put money into us, which is why I'm fairly confident. It's why when a lot of people are saying 49ers are trying to do it on the cheap, obviously they don't want to overspend on stuff, but at the same time, they don't need to. And if you don't have to spend a set amount of money on something, you're not going to, and it all kind of makes sense for me. Incomings in the summer, I think we all sort of understand, will include a winger or 10 to sort of fill that role that is currently sort of covered by Buonanotte. It won't be for an extended period. I think he's got a couple of issues going on in terms of fitness and that kind of thing. We'll need a goalkeeper or 2, I don't know. Probably a striker, definitely a fullback. There are a lot of places that will need investment, and I think I have increased confidence that those areas will absolutely get it. And to be honest, as ownerships go, I'm very, very, very happy with the 49ers at the minute. A lot of people looked at it and they kind of went, well, they were here for the Radrizzani time as well, so everything's going to go wrong. All of the decisions that they've made so far have paid off, and I can't necessarily see them going wrong from here. But, as always, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. When it comes to the 49ers, everyone does let me know what they think in the comments down below, because it's always a bit of a wild one. Subscribe if you haven't yet, it's massively appreciated. Become a channel member as well, that'd be lovely. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo, amigos.